All right, we left things right here last week. I've since added a whole bunch more track on the yard lead. That's coming around in front of the cork road bed, coming around through that 33.5-inch curve over to here. And from that push pin in green there to the end is not attached. But I do have some feeders here. So I do want to keep that running that way. But I'm at the point now where I'm going to be talking about and working on the super elevation of the track on this curve. So I intentionally stopped the main back there last time. And so that's what we're going to be working on this week. So let me show you how I'm thinking I'm going to do this. All right, so my thought here is to work with 020 and 040 styrene strips. And the idea here is to place sections of strip on the outer side of the track to make it lean in. Start with the 020s. As you start getting into the turn, start with the 020s, then transition up to the 040s through the meat of the turn. And then as I start coming out the other side, switch back to the 020s and then back to flat. So that's my thought. I probably will do a little bit of test track here with both 020 and 040 under it. I don't want to overdo things. Some of the commenters on the video or a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about doing this, there was definitely some caution there about, not going too high. And anyway, so I'm going to mess around with it a little bit before I glue anything down, but that's my plan and what I'm thinking about doing. All right, I set myself up a little test here. The track on the left is just flat. The one in the middle is up on some 020 strip styrene, and the one on the right is up at 040. So I want to just kind of see how they all looked side by side. I'll lower the camera and get down to eye level and see what it looks like from there. All right, so that's what it looks like down at eye level. Again, flat on the left, 020 in the middle, and 040 on the right. So I was worried that 040 might be too much, but maybe not. Of course, I could end up putting all this in, run a long string of cars through the curve and have them all tip over. But I think to counter that, it's something I do anyway, is I always weight the cars to at least the NMRA standard. So for these 40-foot HO box cars that are roughly 5.5 inches long or so, I'm usually right around 4 ounces, and I weight them down low. The center of gravity is very low, so they shouldn't want to tip over, he says. So we'll see how that works. But this was kind of an interesting little experiment, just kind of seeing it all side by side. And in fact, with the naked eye, it seems to be showing up a little more than it does on camera, that little tilt to the right. But yeah, so that's what it looks like. I'm gonna kind of study this and probably mess around with it a little bit more before I make a final decision on whether I want to go all the way to 040 or just keep it at 020. But we'll see. Kind of leaning that way, the 040 way. So we'll see. More to come. All right, so I've got my styrene strips for the super elevation put here. What I ended up doing was cutting them to about a 2.5-inch length, and that worked well for going around this pretty broad radius. So the wider ones to there are the 020s, and then I get into the 040s. I got that coming all the way around to over here, back to the 020, and then to the end and flat. And then not far after here will be a turnout that'll actually go into the Deepwater terminal. So that will come later. I'm just gonna run the flex track through that turn. If I come back over here, I think I mentioned this already, but I've got feeders dropped there. So what I'm gonna do is solder. That's what I've got set up here. 2 pieces of flex track together. There's the joint, I've already put the flux on it. And by the way, I just use this rosin paste flux. Pretty simple to use. So I've got that on those joiners. I'll make those joints while it's straight, and then I'll come back and actually lay it on the turn. Then with a feeder on that end, and I'll solder that too when I put it over there. That'll be a soldered joint and then I'll do another feeder on the end. It'll be somewhere not far from where those feeders were dropped, somewhere around in here. So that's the plan. I'm gonna go ahead and get this soldering done. I've got the iron heating up over there, and we'll make this joint. All right, if that glue wasn't white, would you be able to find the seam? I'll show you how I did that here. All right, so as I'm joining sections of flex track together, I always cut the last, call it 2, maybe 3, depending on if I'm on a curve or not, ties off. And then I get my joiner in there and give it a little solder joint. And then I come back later and slide some of these extra ties back in to kind of make those joints disappear. And what I do is if you look closely at this, I've actually cut it's not gonna focus. I've cut the little clips that hold the ties down off, and then I usually sand the bottom of it. So I'll hold it just like it is, sorry for knocking the camera there, and rub it on sandpaper or a file to make it a little thinner, because I need to account for the thickness of the rail joiner. So it needs to slip under the rail joiner, which is down only slightly below the bottom of the rail. So that's my setup. I think I need 3 or possibly 4. So I've got a 4th there ready to go. Now I'll just dab a little bit of glue in here and slide those in. So I'm gonna put the glue in, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got a little Aleene's tacky glue in there. And now I'm gonna take these 3 ties and just kind of work them in gently. And I'll slide them all the way in until the tie plates are just underneath the rails, like so. That one's a little bit of a funky space, so I think I will come in with this extra one and slide that in as well. There you go. So again, if that glue's not white, would you ever spot that joint? Maybe. So that's the first one I showed. And I'll pan over here, down one more length of flex track. There's the next one. See, it's hard to spot it, right there. And then one more over here. It was a little trickier because there were feeders on this one, just like the first one, right there. So I submit to you, I think, that once I've painted that track and that glue dries clear and this got ballast in it, you won't be able to spot where the joints are. So that's just how I do it. All right, so I've got all the super elevated piece of that curve done, and I'm just pushing a string of cars through to see what it feels like. It seems very smooth to me. I don't feel anything catching on anything, not even the clickety-clack of where the tracks join together. There's a joint right there. You hear nothing. Maybe walk over this way a little bit closer. A little bit of a clickety-clack right there. That's okay. It's trains, and there's the end of the line for now. So that's got the super elevation on it, and I do like how that turned out. So that was worth doing. It doesn't show up on the camera quite as much as it does to the naked eye, which is unfortunate, because that's how I share it with y'all. But I think if I come from the end, that's where it's just starting to lean, where that brown boxcar is sitting. Just starting to hit the O2Os there. So if I come back just a little bit more, kind of get over that way, now you can see it. So I'm happy with that. That was worth doing. So I'll go ahead and leave it here for this week. Got the curve in. Maybe I'll get some wiring done and be able to run a train on this thing here by next week. We shall see. Thanks for watching, y'all. Be well and safe.